Mic'd up.
Well, welcome everybody to the Angry Yankee Coast to Coast post-game show after the sweep in Toronto. I am here by myself today because Adam is at a wedding. No, he's not getting married. He said one wife is enough, and I would have to agree with him. However, we are here, and for those of you stuck in traffic over the course of this holiday weekend, do you have it worse than the Yankees do right now? Holy cow, that was a mess. You go into Toronto knowing that they're a bunch of soft-hitting guys, don't strike out, don't have a lot of power, but they're a pain in the ass to pitch to. And what happens? They are a pain in the ass to pitch to, they don't strike out, and they hit home runs against your pitching. Unbelievable that they got swept. As we've been saying, Adam and I, for more than a year, there are a lot of holes on this team. There are a lot of problems on this team. The question is, how are they going to address them? When are they going to address them? And can they even address them? There's three things, well, now four because of the Schmidt potential injury, but there's three things that they absolutely have to address. And one of them is the lineup. And we saw it tonight. Goldschmidt had a great game yesterday, had 2 hits, started to look good, even against right-handed hitters. So what did they do? They sat him down. And guess whose turn it is to sit tomorrow because he had 4 hits today and is red hot? Jason Dominguez. So let's talk about Aaron Boone and his attitude and his tone. He is still continuing to be Kevin Bacon in Animal House during the riot scene at the end. All is well. Stay calm as he gets flattened by the crowd that's looting the food king, as they say. I am sick and tired of hearing that all is well. There are too many holes. The three major things that I was going to address, or that Adam and I always want to address, are lineup construction, including the lineup roulette, which has to stop, the infield problem, both defensively and offensively, and the bullpen, which we've said has been burned out and is not that good, even though they've been effective most of this season. But now starting pitching is going to make the list as well. But we're going to start with the one that's really easy because we don't know when the Yanks are going to make any moves or if they're going to make any moves and if there's really anybody available. So what can they do to be more consistent hitting-wise, which they didn't have a bad weekend or a bad week in Toronto hitting-wise, but they still have a lot of problems on the team. First of all, Goldschmidt and Rice need to be a platoon, straight up platoon. I know I just said Goldschmidt had 2 hits and then sat today against the right-hander. They need to be a straight up platoon. And quite frankly, if Goldschmidt starts hitting righties again, you're going to have to start thinking about Rice as a catcher and Wells sitting. But for the time being, let's just talk about those 2 guys being a platoon. It'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow because it's not quite a night game, not quite a day game. It's a 3:40 start against the Mets. So Wells caught today, and Rice played first base. The way the Yankees do things, it's not likely that Wells is going to catch again tomorrow, but we'll see what happens in the lineup tomorrow. It would not be a bad thing tomorrow if Rice is the catcher and Goldschmidt's back at first base. And it wouldn't be a bad thing tomorrow if Wells is the catcher and Goldschmidt's back at first base against the right-handed pitcher. But we'll see what happens. The outfield. I'm done. I know he hit another homer today, but I'm sick and tired of seeing Grisham out there. I don't want to see him. His time has passed. He is now very streaky, which is good and bad, obviously, because that's what streaky is. But he is so inconsistent right now that it's just bad. He's either all or nothing. And that's not what you want from him. And don't tell me his center field defense is good. I'm sorry. But the luster is off him offensively, and his defense, despite Michael Kay and David Cohn and others talking about how great it is, as well as other Yankee announcers like Paul O'Neill, it's not. First of all, his nonchalant attitude cost him a base yesterday, and it was a close game at the time because he didn't rush the ball back into second base and allowed the guys to tag up or go from first to second in a close game. In 2020, he was an above-average fielder, 8 outs above average. In 2021, he was 5 outs above average. And in 2022, he was one of the best center fielders in baseball at 17 outs above average. In 2023, which was his last year in San Diego, he was 8 runs above average. You know what he was last year as a Yankee? 2 runs above average. And you know what he is this year as a Yankee? 0 runs above average with an average arm. He is not that good of a fielder that it justifies him playing every day. Do you want to sit Dominguez at the end of games and put somebody else in for better defense? I'm not so sure that's the right thing to do anymore, but if that's what you want to do, I don't want to see Grisham till the 8th or ninth inning. Just like if there's a platoon of Goldschmidt and Rice, Goldschmidt should be in there at the end of games because he's an outstanding first baseman as far as scoops go. Again, as far as range goes, he's not the big range type first baseman that you might see from other teams, but the man can scoop like nobody's business. So I don't want to see Grisham anymore. So what does that mean? Dominguez and Bellinger need to be in the lineup every single game. No lineup roulette with them. Bellinger in center, Dominguez in left, Judge in right. Yes, Judge gets to do some DHing sometimes. And quite frankly, the Yankees should handle Dominguez the way that they handled Paul O'Neill when he first came over from Cincinnati. Against the tough left-handed pitchers, sit Dominguez. Who are the tough left-handed pitchers? Skubal would be one, and maybe Crochet would be another. There are others that are out there that are tough left-handers. If they faced a Chris Sale, I would say that he should sit down. But let him play already. His batting average is shooting up against from 160 to 200 in his recent stretch against left-handed pitching. And let the man play. I mean, he is a heart and soul type of player right now for the Yankees. He is hitting, he is running the bases, he's playing defense, he's got a decent arm. His outs above average is -1, which is not much worse than Grisham. It's 1 minus because Grisham's at a 0. And Bellinger, he's having no problems against lefties, which they thought he might have, but he's actually got reverse splits this year, and he's the only guy on the team that actually will poke a ball to the left field and change his approach with 2 strikes to cut back on his strikeouts. And Dominguez's plate discipline is outstanding, both left-handed and right-handed. His right-handed swing, he's just out of balance, and that little sweepy thing that he does, it's got to be fixable. But then again, you know my issues with regard to Volpe. I think he should be easily fixable just by watching videotape. Lock him in a room the way some parents used to lock their kids into a closet with a pack of cigarettes and make them smoke the whole pack until they got sick of it and never smoked again. Volpe should be forced to watch his at-bats where his ass is in the third base dugout until he can't take it anymore and he's willing to switch. Why he can't be switched around the way that they worked with Rice, where Rice opened up his stance so that he's no longer stepping in the bucket because he's forced to step into the ball, and it's made a huge difference for Rice. Why they can't do that with Volpe, I don't know. But Bellinger and Dominguez need to be playing every day, and Grisham needs to be the odd man out here. Matter of fact, I would try and deal Grisham to a team that needs an outfielder, even if it means getting a low-level, high-upside prospect for him, because he's not going to be on the team next year no matter what happens, because you know Jones is going to be here. Maybe the Yankees make a play for Tucker. And if the Yankees are desperate for an outfielder for defensive purposes, hey, guess what? Everson Pereira is an excellent defender. He's back from his shoulder surgery. He could be your 4th outfielder for defense if you want, and he could play center field and left field as well. But I think Grisham, his time is past. Plus, Pereira is a righty, so if you really want to rest Dominguez against tough left-handers, Pereira as a right-handed hitter is your guy. But either way, Bellinger and Dominguez need to be playing every day. Catcher. Everybody now is clamoring, Wells is terrible, Wells is this, Wells is that, Wells is the other thing. Guess what, guys? His defense is among the best in baseball. You know, the Yankee catchers don't throw out a lot of runners. Nobody throws out a lot of runners, but a lot of guys don't run. Of course, you have Max Fried picking guys off, so it all looks good as far as caught stealings by the Yankees. But is Wells the guy? The Yankees need to make the decision. You need to shit or get off the pot at this point. You can't just dick around with this. Either make Rice a catcher, which I don't think you should because he's not that good defensively. I actually think he's the best trade chip they have. And leave Wells in there. His defense is outstanding. His framing is 2nd or 3rd best in baseball all season long. And is his hitting taking a downturn? The question is, has his hitting taken a downturn? I don't know that it has. Quite frankly, he had an OPS in 2024 of 103. In 2022, when he first came up, he had that 0 for streak, and it was at 97. This year, he's at 94. His bat has not translated from the minors to the majors like they would want it to do. He can't stay off the high fastball, but he is what he is, and his stats are pretty much in line with what they've been from the get-go. He's a 210 to 220 hitting catcher with 20 to 25 home run power. Maybe you get lucky in a couple of seasons, it becomes a 25 to 35 home run power. Who knows? but the underpinnings of his at-bats as far as is he dropping down and getting worse? No, he's really not. He just is not that good of a hitter, but he's a defensive catcher. The problem is if you have a defensive catcher, you can't have a hole at second base, and you can't have a hole at shortstop as far as batting goes, and you can't have a hole anywhere else in your lineup and still expect to have consistent at-bats, especially at the rate that people are striking out for the Yankees. Call Cal Raleigh, just so you know, and we all know Cal Raleigh right now leading the world in home runs. Up until this season, was a 220 hitting catcher with 25 to 30 home run power. His OPS had never been over 110 in each of his full seasons since he came up to the majors. In 2025, obviously, it's a new ball game for him. What happened? I don't know. Did his ass get bigger? Tell Wells to let his ass get bigger. I don't know what's happening, but Cal Raleigh went from a 220 hitter and he's hitting 275 this year. Maybe the Yankees get lucky. Of course, Raleigh is a switch hitter, so he gets to bat right-handed and left-handed. But maybe the Yankees get lucky, and there is something they can do with regard to Wells's offense. It is clear, though, that the Yankees minor leaguers that come up do not get better offensively when they get to the major leagues. They do not get better when they get to the major leagues. They have not translated. When is the last time the Yankees had a minor leaguer whose offense translated? Aaron Judge? Is he the last guy that translated? I mean, clearly, these guys that have left the Yankees have turned into decent hitters, whether it's even Rob Refschneider or some of these other guys that they've given up over time have turned into decent hitters. But really, no Yankee minor league hitter has turned out to be much of anything for an extended period of time. Ramirez down in Miami right now is having a great year as a rookie, but we'll see what happens on the long term. But then again, he's not on the Yankee roster for him to take a step backwards. So what do they need to do? They need to decide if Rice is a catcher or if Wells is their guy. If one of them is going to be the catcher, the other can be traded. That's the piece that they can move if they decide to do anything. Would I like them to have a right-handed platoon or a right-handed catcher as the backup instead of Escara? Sure, but Escara is a backup catcher. It's not the most important position on the team, and certainly he's a better offensive player than they thought he was going to be after his 10 years in the minors, and he's a very good defensive catcher as well. So as a backup catcher, he's a good guy. I say because Rice can play first base now. He has better underlying metrics and is hitting the ball better than Wells. I think it's time to deal Rice, but that's for another story. What can they do? What do they need? And how can they get what they need? But the big thing for me is Bellinger and Dominguez need to play every day. And they need to get those guys in the lineup and stop this lineup roulette. It's just got to stop. The other problem they have is what to do about Stanton. Up, he's down, he strikes out, he doesn't. He finally hit a homer in this series. Obviously, he's not going anywhere. He's got 3 more years at $19 per that the Yankees are paying him, $22 for salary tax purposes in Major League Baseball. There's nothing they could do about Stanton. Obviously, I would prefer that he not be there, but really, what else is out there? I don't know what's out there. Would they go out there and get a guy like Josh Naylor next year who's a free agent or somebody like that? I don't know. But if you bring in a Kyle Tucker next year or even a Jones to play the outfield, you've got to figure out what's going on. As a matter of fact, next year wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they go get Tucker and they go with an outfield of Tucker, Dominguez, and Judge with Bellinger at first base. I don't care about that. Would be a bad idea, but that's for the next season. Right now with Stanton, you know what? Treat it like it's the playoffs. A lot of off days in the playoffs. You play 2 games, you have a day off. You play 2 games, you have a day off. You play a game, day off. If it's a 7-game series, you have another day off, another game, and then the game 7. Play Stanton on that type of rotation. And if you want to mix it up a little bit so that he sits a little bit more against right-handed pitchers, that's fine. But don't roll him out there every day. I think sitting him today was the right thing to do. Although, again, yesterday he hit a home run, so of course you had to sit today. I mean, it's like the Yankees say, oh, you had hits today, let's sit you down. Volpe finally had a good game a couple of days ago. They sat him down. So Volpe, 155 runners left on base. Yes, he had 2 RBIs today. The second one was lucky. His ass was in the third base dugout, and he had a ground out with the infield back. At least he made contact. That's a good thing to do. This is what I would do with the current roster structure. If they don't make any deals, this is the lineups as I see them needing to be. Against a right-handed pitcher, Bellinger leads off. Move Dominguez as a left-handed hitter into the 2 slot in front of Judge. He's going to see more fastballs. He's going to see more strikes. He's got great plate discipline, and he's a 300 hitter now as a left-handed hitter. Put him in the 2 hole. Don't put him in the leadoff. Too much pressure for him, I think. Judge bats third. Rice plays first base. Stanton is your DH 2 out of every 3 games. Jazz is at second. Volpe's at short. Wells is a catcher. And then what I would do is I would bench DJ LeMahieu. He's not hitting. He's not providing any defensive metrics that you want. I don't really like the idea of playing Peraza every day, but at least if Peraza's playing every day, you get defense out of him. Again, today he showed 3 strikeouts. The real answer for the Yankees is either a trade, which I'll talk about in a little bit, or just say, you know what? I know he's not hitting at AAA. He was hitting at AA. And yes, the history of Yankee players coming up from the minors and performing, other than Dominguez, who did when he came up really quickly 3 years ago before he got hurt, is Lombard Jr. You know what? Just bring him up. Put him at third base. Actually, I'd like to see him play shortstop, but put him at third base and move Jazz to his best position, which is second base. So the lineup against righties would be Bellinger, Dominguez, Judge, Rice, Stanton, Jazz, Volpe, Wells, and Peraza. And the days that you want to sit Stanton against the righty, you can move Judge to the DH, or you can move Rice to the DH and put Goldschmidt in the lineup, or you could put Grisham in the lineup against the right-hander as well. Against lefties, tougher lineup to make for the Yankees because, quite frankly, again, this is where Dominguez has to really step up. You have Goldie leading off, Bellinger second, Judge third. Stanton against lefties is in the cleanup slot. Jazz is in the 5 hole. Volpe bats 6th against lefties. Dominguez bats 7th. Wells bats 8th. And then again, third base or second base, depending on whether or not you want to bring up Lombard to be the third baseman, Peraza, and DJ. But that's how the lineup is constructed right now. I don't think that there's really much wiggle room. I don't see Grisham starting very frequently. I don't want him starting very frequently. And quite frankly, the fact that these guys get amused about the way he plays defense in center field, 1, he's not that good. And 2, I think it's cocky. And at some point, like it did yesterday when the guy went from first to second on him, I won't say it's lackadaisical because he's getting under the ball and he's just catching the ball in a way that's lackadaisical looking. It appears the teams are starting to see that, are going to take advantage of it. So that's how I foresee the lineup needing to be going forward. No real lineup roulette. None of this rotation stuff, except for maybe with Stanton. Absolutely need to have Dominguez and Bellinger in there every day. They give you quality at bats, even right-handed. Dominguez gives you a quality at bat, even though he's not making as much contact. I don't care about anything else, but the lineup needs to be more consistent. Yes, they had a decent series offensively against Toronto, but, it's not working. So that's how I foresee the lineup. The other thing that's a problem, and I'll talk about this and then probably call it a day, and Adam and I, or I'll come back this weekend, and we'll talk a little bit more about the pitching staff because it's now really in flux depending on what's going on with Schmidt, so I'm going to hold off on that. What can the Yankees do about the infield?